Present.
Present.
Okay.
Present.
Very well, we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3, approval of minutes from a regular meeting on June 15th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second motion. It's been moved by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Rangel. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 4, call to the public.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to introduce Jerry Cabrera, our new city manager.
Very well.
Hello, Commission. Thank you for serving. My name is Jerry Cabrera, and I actually know some of you, obviously, and some of the folks are here in the lobby as well. I just started the position here on Wednesday, so it's been about 4 days now. So I want to thank you for serving. I was in your chair here about 10 years ago, huh, Carmen?
Yes.
About 10 years serving as well as you have. Also was part of the IDA. I was part of the Yuma County Redistricting Commission back in 2011. So, and another thing, I actually have lived here in Somerton for the most part of my life. Lived down on Congress Street, and most of my career has been here in Somerton as well. I used to work for Somerton School District, Regional Center for Border Health, and I remember also. Geez, I was just remembering that I worked for Somerton School District when I was in 8th grade as one of my electives in the kitchen. So my retirement started way back when. So I want to just, again, reiterate, thank you. My doors are always open. Our Carmen is always a great help. A lot of resource of information, including Saúl. Great persons to have. And anything you may need or comment, I'm always here in this building. So, Mr. Rice, anytime you want to come and knock on the door, I'll be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Very well. Item number 1. Temporary use permit case number PLN 20-00011, a request by Vasquez Brothers Incorporated, doing business as Central Coast Packing for the temporary establishment of a farm worker housing complex at 413 North Avenue G. Mr. Rice, you had a...
Okay, are you gonna go ahead and present it first, Saul?
Mr. Rice, I believe we should
Well, just
have you recuse yourself first.
on this particular item, I'm gonna recuse myself from the voting.
Very well.
I'll recuse myself.
Very well.
Okay.
Mr. Rice, if you could take a chair.
Yes.
Rice, please. Thank you. Just for this case.
All right, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and Mr. Chairman, the item before you is PLN 20-00011, Central Coast Packing, Vasquez Brothers H2A Housing, temporary use permit. I'm going to pull up a copy of the staff report and exhibits here on my screen. Just give me 1 second, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm trying to load up the staff report on my screen here. Just trying to share my screen. Yeah, it's that one. So, while Luis loads up the exhibits, I'm gonna start giving you a little bit of background information about the case. First of all, this is a temporary use permit. This is actually the first time I have brought a temporary use permit before the Planning and Zoning Commission, because temporary use permits are typically reviewed at the staff level, at the administrative level. They do not go before this commission or the city council for approval. This one, thank you, Luis. This one was a little bit different because we have a criteria for a temporary use permit to be approved at the administrative level. And the minimum requirement is that they have to obtain the written consent of all the property owners to be granted the administrative approval. This project, the applicant was unable to obtain those signatures from the adjacent property owners. But when that happens, the zoning administrator has the option to send this to the Planning and Zoning Commission for review, which is why this item is here before you. So the project itself, this is the location. It's at the in the general area of Highway 95 and Avenue G, on a lot that is zoned C2 general commercial. The proposal is for a temporary H2A complex, farm labor working complex. The applicant has submitted this layout. It's just going to be, this is the lot here. It's currently a vacant lot. There might be a few existing buildings. There's a well, and it's also next to the adjacent APS station. But the layout is proposed as shows: a driveway leading into the back of the property, 2 temporary housing units consisting of manufactured homes, temporarily installed, and to serve as a purpose for ag farm workers to live there for the duration of the winter harvesting season. Now, the applicant has requested for 2 growing seasons to be the life of this temporary use, which would equate to 14 months total. After that, if the applicant wanted to continue this use on this property, they would have to rezone the property because C2 is not an appropriate district for this kind of use on a permanent basis. However, on a temporary basis, staff does believe that it is compatible because it's an agricultural auxiliary use. The entire area around there is zone agricultural. Let me show you the zoning map. So this is the property here. One more point to consider is that the irregular shape of this lot makes it very hard for anything that is allowed into the C2 general commercial zoning district to be developed. So something like this, especially on a temporary basis, staff does believe that it is compatible, especially given that the entire area is zoned for agriculture, and this is an agricultural supplemental use. My report is, the way I'm explaining this is a little bit different than I usually deliver my reports because we, like I mentioned earlier, these are typically reviewed at the staff level. I'm just trying to give you as much information as possible, and then so that you can make the best decision. I would like to just read my staff analysis that I wrote so that everyone can
and C. Okay. But first of all, does the commission have any questions at this point? Mr. Rice, I believe.
My question is, what they're gonna set up with 2 4-bedroom mobile homes, how many people are going to have living?
Hold on, Mr. Rice, right now, you've declared a conflict, so you're not a commission member, but you need to wait until maybe, your presentation, and then maybe, if he has some extra questions, then you can jump in, but let him go proceed with his analysis, and then the commission can make the sitting commission members can ask those questions.
Okay, well, I am gonna just read over my staff analysis, and then, I will proceed to the staff recommendation and conditions of approval. And, we'll go from there, I guess. Staff analysis. H2A housing, which is the proposed use, temporary use, is becoming a prominent auxiliary feature of modern agricultural operations in Yuma County. The shortage of farm labor is causing local farmers to turn to the H2A program, visa worker program, for labor sourcing. One of the requirements of the H2A program calls for farmers to provide housing accommodations for workers contracted through the H2A program. The program has resulted in multiple hotels and apartment complexes throughout Yuma County to be retrofitted to H2A housing. A great number of current existing H2A complexes are located in much denser urban areas in the subject property. So this is becoming these H2A complexes you're starting to see them a lot in Yuma County. You see them in Yuma. In the middle of Yuma, they have H2A complexes. Where these complexes are currently being located in the middle of a city. Where it's being proposed here on a temporary basis is on an agricultural parcel way out in the outskirts of Somerton, outside of the urban growth boundary for the next 10 years. It is the opinion of staff that the proposed H2A housing complex is compatible with the surrounding area, which is predominantly agricultural, on both a temporary and a permanent basis, but this is just for a temporary use permit that we're discussing. The subject parcel's irregularity makes it difficult to attract any form of development permitted in the C2 zoning district. Had the applicant chosen to pursue a rezoning to Ag 5, which is what everything else is zoned, staff recommendation would have almost certainly been approval due to the surrounding built environment, which is almost entirely agricultural despite the underlying low density residential general plan land use classification. The request for a 14-month duration of a TUP, temporary use permit, may be considered as staff believes the request is acceptable due to the location and the surrounding built environment, as well as because the units will only be occupied on a seasonal basis, totaling approximately 10 months rather than the entire 14-month period. So although the duration of the permit would be for 14 months, it would only be occupied for the growing seasons, which typically run late fall through spring here in Yuma. The subject parcel, as mentioned earlier, is outside the Somerton General Plan growth area, meaning urban development in the general vicinity is not expected in the near future, mainly due to the lack of infrastructure. And given that the area is currently agricultural in nature and expected to remain unchanged for the coming years, staff believes the extended temporary use permit, so 14 months, would not be detrimental to the uses in the vicinity in any way. Does the commission have any questions on what I just explained? Okay. So staff recommendation for this project is for approval, subject to a set of conditions. I guess, Mr. Chairman, should I go over the conditions of approval, since recommendation is approval, and then we can hear from any members of the public related to this? Okay. So staff recommendation is approval. And we have a number of conditions of approval, which we took quite a bit of time to ensure that these, if we do allow this use, temporary use, that it's going to be very compatible with the area and that they're going to follow all the necessary requirements so that it's as compatible with what is there and with the adjacent properties as possible. So the conditions of approval are, number one, the project shall abide by all established municipal, county, state, and federal regulations for the establishment and operation of a temporary H2A housing complex, including those not specifically listed on this staff report. Number two, applicant shall comply with all adopted zoning, building, fire, safety, and development ordinances. Number three, applicant shall submit to the Department of Community Development a detailed site plan / installation plan of the proposed facility. The applicant shall obtain the necessary construction and installation permits prior to installing the manufactured homes. Installation and construction must comply with the regulations set forth by the City of Somerton, Yuma County, State of Arizona, for the United States government for the establishment of the proposed use. Number four, the applicant shall screen the complex from view from private property or public right-of-way. This may be achieved by providing a landscaping or plastic latticing in the chain link fence or a solid block wall. Someone's hammering a nail. So I'm going to continue, Mr. Chairman. Number five, the applicant shall provide a partially improved driveway and maneuvering area able to accommodate the ingress and egress of the Somerton Fire Department apparatus. This may be achieved by providing a paved surface or sufficient amount of compacted AVC surfacing deemed appropriate by the Somerton Fire Department and Public Works Department. Number six, applicant shall provide a septic tank capacity and condition report and connection detail to manufactured homes as part of condition number three. So that one is tied to number three because number three says they must comply with, they shall submit a detailed site plan of the proposed facilities and they must obtain any necessary permits, which includes the septic tank and those kinds of things. So the numbers got a little screwed up there, but condition number seven, which it says number 8, but it's actually number 7. Applicant shall commence the process of establishing the temporary use by complying with condition number 3. So they have to pull the permits and do all the necessary requirements within the condition number 3 within 3 months of the date of approval of this temporary use. So if it is approved, say today, or yes, today, they would have to submit everything that we ask for them within 3 months as a condition of approval. Condition number 9, but it says number 5 on there. The temporary use permit duration shall run continuously without interruptions or lapses for a duration of 14 months after the date of establishment. Once expired, the TUP shall not be renewed due to the extended life of the temporary use permit initially granted. So staff believes that 14 months, the request for a temporary use permit is sufficient. And if they want to make that into a permanent installation, they'll have to go through a different kind of process, the applicant, which would more than likely be a rezoning to a compatible zoning district, which would allow for this on a permanent basis. But as of right now, this is just temporary, 14 months. Any questions on the conditions of approval?
I have a general question, so I will if I have time.
Commissioner Magana, yes, go ahead.
It's just a general question. Thinking about safety considerations, is it your experience and do you support housing so near APS station?
Well, we did send these comments out to all the members, city staff who would have expertise on this, on the issue that you just raised, Commissioner, including safety, and that wasn't brought up to us the problem, no one saw it as an issue that it's that there will be housing located next to the station, including APS, which we did send a request for comments for, and they replied no comment. So no one's brought up any issue saying that it's a problem, but we can definitely we can definitely document it, because this will be a
Yeah.
first project in Somerton, and go ahead, sorry.
No,
Yeah.
just that's what I think about. I'm thinking about perhaps vulnerable populations that would be living here. I think that's important. That's something that always comes up in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Saul, I have a question. This is Lorena.
Go ahead, Commissioner. Yes.
I know that we can't, I guess maybe you won't be able to answer this, but the capacity of those trailers or home, whatever they're going to, or they're wanting to bring in, did they say how many people per? I don't know, just I've read this and I'm looking at it, and all I can think of is, my dad was abracero and these camps and I don't know about this. Do you know how many people per?
So, Commissioner Zendejas, typically the living quarters for H2A, they're not luxury by any means, and they are occupied there's more density in them than a regular housing development or an apartment complex. The proposed trailers, or sorry, manufactured homes, which the diagram which they sent shows a 4-bedroom unit. It would, I guess we could ask if it's okay with the commission, we could ask the applicant on what they're thinking, because I actually do not have that piece of information. Would someone from the Vasquez brothers or Central Coast?
If it's okay, Mr. Chairman, we can finalize our report and then open the floor for the applicant and everyone else that wishes to speak. I would like to address that question, council members, and I'm sorry, Planning and Zoning Commissioners, and then what we can do is we can also reach out to the Arizona Department of Housing, which is the entity that also oversees the manufactured homes installation. What we can do, we can reach out to them and ask for the maximum capacity, and that's obviously what the applicant will be required to not exceed.
Thank you.
And just to add a little bit on that, one of the conditions of approval is that they have to comply with all adopted state, county, federal regulations, which I'm pretty sure that what Carmen just mentioned, the state occupancy regulations will probably cover that. And yes, we'll definitely look into that. Commissioners and Zendejas, thank you. So that's pretty much it for me, Commissioner. I guess, would you have the applicant here present and several members of the public, adjacent property owners here present who wish to comment? Would you like to hear from them at this point?
Yes.
So would you like to hear from the applicant first?
Yeah.
If you can please state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Vasquez, and I come from Soledad, California. And I've been in and out of Somerton area for the last 29, 30 years in the harvest business. And to answer your question on the trailers, or the amount of people living in those trailers, the temporary sleeping quarters, it would be 11 per trailer. And it is definitely, you have to get permits from the Department of Labor, so it is controlled by the U.S. Department of Labor. And the living quarters would actually be bigger than the rooms are actually larger than most apartments where H-2A or visa workers live now in different areas of the county. So this year, it took too long for me to try and get this to go I couldn't get signatures from my neighbors. So I am in Encanto Apartments in Yuma, Arizona this year with 4 apartments for 22 laborers, but I only have 22 laborers and they're men. There's no children. It's strictly 2 to 3 men per room. The women come from Somerton, Arizona or San Luis, Arizona. And the groups, it's harvest crews of 22 to 24, but basically it's strictly men and it's 22 visa workers from Guanajuato. They come to work here and we work 6 days a week. They rest on Sundays and we're obligated to bring them. You have to bring them one day, but we would bring them several days to Del Sol Market to buy food. But this season, it's not going to happen. It's too late for it because the U.S. Department of Labor, you have to get a permit 90 days in advance. So I'm out this year, but yes, so we transport them. They don't have cars. We transport them all year long, but they do work 7 to 10 hours a day, and their rest day is on Sundays. The trailers would have kitchens, and they're responsible to cook their meals and stuff. But yes, I believe the rooms are the U.S. Department of Labor here in Arizona is 40 square feet per worker. So we would have 2 to 3, and our rooms are somewhere in the 160 square foot. So they're big rooms, but we're not going to pack them in like sardines. So I don't have a problem putting a wall up. We put ABC gravel or whatever that is every year, and our yard is fairly clean, I believe, and we are willing to do the upgrades. But it is controlled by the U.S. government. They come in and do inspections. You actually have to show them the living quarters before you're even allowed a permit to house.
Any questions?
No, I don't have much. I just figured, these workers are, I talked to a few of my neighbors and they mentioned that the crime would go up. I don't believe workers that come to work come here to commit crimes after work. They come here to work, they rest, and they're ready for the next day of work. I don't believe they come to. And as far as on the APS, there are signs all around. They've been signs all around there for the APS, but these workers coming, they range from 20 to 30 years old. They're married. I requested married workers, so this way they have more to lose if they don't work, put in the effort, I guess. And years ago, I've been there for a little over 20 years. I sold APS some ground, and I sold one of my neighbors that are here a piece of the property I had there. So I'm left with what I have there now. But it's temporary housing, and it's pretty much sleeping quarters.
If there are no questions for Mr. Vasquez, perhaps there's another member of the
Sure.
your group.
Mark?
If they want to speak.
You want to comment anything on your traders?
No, if they have any questions about regards to the manufactured homes? Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Mark Cicados. I'm with Living Easy Lifestyles. I'm the one that's trying to help him with the permit process, as we take care of all the permit process and the schematics and the plot maps of the lots when we're getting ready to install the manufactured homes. So this is where we're involved. Strictly involved just with the homes itself. So they would have to meet all the requirements from the state of Arizona, the Arizona Housing Department, which that's who we pull from, that's who we set to, and that's where your regulations come into, as far as inspecting, you know. I don't know if you guys do your own inspections, or does Yuma County come out and do your inspections?
We have an agreement with the Department of Housing. We do the inspections for them.
Oh, good. Then you guys would, then we would follow underneath those guidelines.
We follow their
Yeah. So, but yes, again, I'm strictly with that, trying to make sure that everything's, as far as environmentally, cleared, as far as septics, individual, meters. You know, I can't have, you know, one meter supplying the whole lot. There's numerous other, mechanics on there. As I see, there's garages and stuff, but there'd be individual, pedestals, individual hookups. All the utilities would be their own individual per manufactured home. Yeah, you're welcome.
And anyone else wish to address the commission? State your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name's Ronald Rice, 667 North Avenue G, since the city changed it for us. Anyway, just so you know, if you're looking at that map up there, we own the property on the north side and the south to the west side of the property that we're talking about. And that's my home just to the north of that property. They answered one question on how many people were going to be involved. My second question is that septic system that's in there, will that handle that number of people and that flow of water and sewage? The third one I have is the city going to conduct any surveys or anything, inspections of the number of people that are there? And also, is the city police department aware of there going to be that number of people involved there at any one given time? So I'm against it. So I just would like to let it be known that I don't think it's a good thing. I disagree with Saul on this, that because there's no other property, all the properties near there, there's not that kind of numbers of people living there. There's my wife and I live to the north. There's another little house down to the south. But there's nothing set up in that area for this type of living and this type of number of people. So, like I say, I'm against it. And I hope that as a commission, you vote against it. Thank you.
No, not yet. Until this case is over, then you can come back to your chair.
Here's the next one.
Anyone else wishing to
Yes. Hey, folks, I'm Rick Wayman Sellers. I'm the individual that owns, the property to the south of this man's property. And I also own to the east of Avenue G. I live at 6320 East Telegraph Street now, but I was born and raised in Yuma, and I've been in Somerton 68 years. I've been running around in Somerton. So, I respectfully request that you, really consider this and, deny the project, mainly because, it is ag, and there's, 22 people gonna live there, and nobody has mentioned any of the spraying that goes on within 10 feet of this person's property and my property. And of course, we do aerial spraying all the time in the wintertime. And that's exactly when all these individuals would be living right there. And then he's putting them within 30 feet of my property on the south side, according to this information that I have here. And I'm really concerned about the individuals, when they're off and they're not working, they have a tendency to want to go to Somerton.
and there's no sidewalks for them, for the individuals to go to Somerton. They got to cross Avenue G at some point, and that's my property. And it's always farmed and vegetables. So we would, Doug and Saul will speak on that, but we'll have to fence that, and we'll have to regulate some type of regulation there. And the other thing is those aircraft spray all the time. And they would have to be really cautious, particularly on Avenue G and 95, when the aircrafts are spraying and turning in the field. Once that chemical's mixed, it needs to go on that field. So we can't have foot traffic anywhere. So that would have to be that would be a real serious food safety issue. And I'm really concerned about no sewer in that area with that concentration, many people that would actually be living there. The individual could have put this project in the center of his property, and then he could have run his leach lines if the perk test works out. I guess you could maybe make that work, but I guess you're going to address that. So I'm really concerned about those things. So, and I am the individual that owns two sides, south side and obviously the east side. So I respectfully request that you not allow this project. Thank you.
What was your name again, sir?
Rick Sellers, Rick Wayman Sellers.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Evening, my name is Doug Consall, one of the local business owners here. I own Consall Ranches, which is right there on Dead Man's Curve, is our main area, and then I also own Sunset Applicators. Rick Sellers is one of my landlords. So I currently farm the Beck Ranch, which is directly to the east, and then I rent the property to the south. The property to the south of it, just kind of want to talk about on the Sunset Applicator side. So currently I use that facility to store spray rigs, chemigation rigs, and then also store chemicals, all your different insecticides, pesticides, that stuff. And so, my concern is that with having additional people around, being zoned ag, it's just additional chance of exposure, which creates risk on my side of it. And obviously going to the east side right there, it's just additional risk for me on the spray side of it. I currently spray that field typically 2 to 3 times a year. And then along with Tri-Rotor, who does my aerial applications, they could be in there anywhere from 2 to 3 times a year. So, that's one of my main concerns. And then along, like Rick mentioned, the foot traffic, at that point in time, we would have to fence along the whole east border of the field, which with food safety fencing, if we have, foot traffic going up and down there, would just be additional expense to my farm and, to the overall deal. So those are basically my main concerns, and like I said, it's just a matter of liability on my side of it that, with concern to the workers in there that, I wouldn't want, have anybody be exposed to anything. We do all of our, protocol and steps to make sure that doesn't happen, but with the site being a, lease for Sunset Applicators that, it's a main concern for me. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Neil Bowman. I live at 1073 East Palo Verde Street in Yuma, Arizona. And I've been farming the ground all around this project for about 30 years. Thank you, Chairman Flores and the committee, for allowing me a chance to talk today. We hear a lot today on the news about food safety, E. coli, those sort of things. And of course, farming this ground is one of the first things I begin to think of is food safety. We already face a large problem with the county housing, as you see in the map there. But fortunately, there's a fair buffer around that housing. This would provide no buffer. We experienced extreme difficulty in the water and sewage treatment system that had existed on the farmland there as part of that county project, which you can see on the map. We don't make the rules. Walmart and buyers make the rules. They decide where I can farm, what is safe. Not Somerton, not the county of Yuma, not the state of Arizona, but the people who actually buy product. And so we're very sensitive to any project which may present a potential food safety problem. As I mentioned earlier, before the city of Somerton, and thank you very much, for doing the project of pumping that sewage now back out to County 16th, Highway 95, and up to your facility. Most of the customers that I had put a 400-foot buffer. Why? Because their customers demanded a 400-foot buffer, which almost made it to where we couldn't farm any of that. But thanks to you and the new sewage system, we're kind of relieved from that problem. I only bring this up because when the audits come out, they are going to look at this facility. And the first thing they're going to ask about is that septic tank and those leach lines. And they are going to draw a boundary, however far they decide, not however far the state of Arizona or the county of Yuma or the city of Somerton decides. They will decide. And my biggest fear is they will say, we need a 400-foot buffer, which is essentially going to eliminate the productivity of the farmland here. Now, I remember, I'm going to show how old I am. I can remember when this whole area had housing back in the day. That housing is gone now, and it's all been changed. And it's put in productive agricultural land. And I think it's a little bit of stretch of the imagination to suggest that ag housing is the same thing as farming. Housing is housing. Would you put apartments, regular apartments there? Would you put houses in there? So you're stretching a little bit to say ag housing. And I agree. H-2A workers are law-abiding people. You do not have problems with H-2A workers. But I also would suggest, given the dimensions, that you could have 32 people over there with expansion of putting more. Because, well, you know, I used to watch Andy Griffith, you know, and you remember Barney Fife, and his thing was nip it in the bud. And that's what I'm here to try to do, is to nip the problem in the bud, because this will not stop at housing for 22 people. It will go to 32. It will go to 64. And it's been said by the people ahead of us, what are they going to do? Having seen and been living nearby H-2A housing in Yuma, they want to go somewhere. And they're not going to be satisfied to wait for the day that they get transported to go up to the Del Sol market or wherever. They will be a continual stream into Somerton. this is the wrong area for that. It's too far, it's too dangerous. Avenue G is probably one of the most dangerous roads in this county. And these workers are going to be walking on a continual basis and down County 16th with no sidewalk. The E. coli presents an E. coli problem, which presents a food safety problem, which presents a big problem for me. I would like to continue to farm this ground. I'm concerned, while APS may not have said anything about the substation that's there, it is right there. And given the wrong night, with the wrong person doing the wrong stupid thing, accidents are going to happen. And I am quite frankly surprised that your fire marshal is willing to accept that project, because there's only one way in and one way out through a narrow driveway. So if anything major happens in that housing project, a fire, a fight, I don't care what it is, you're in big trouble, because it's one way in and one way out, and that's narrow, and that is asking for huge trouble. Now, that has nothing to do with me farming, but having gone through projects of my own, generally that fire marshal would like to know, how do I get in and out? And this is not the right area. No disrespect to the person wanting to do this project. I can understand why it's his best option, but it can't be his only option. He is going to have to look at something more appropriate, something safer, and something that does not infringe on the neighbors who are trying to make a living and to drive the economy and to provide those actual jobs that he's hoping these farm workers and H-2A workers can have. So I thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you will consider my comments.
Anyone else wish?
Right. Come up to say one more thing.
Sure.
Once again, Carlos Vasquez from Soledad, California there. As far as for the pesticide, every evening for the last 18, 20 years, I've had 6 to 8 employees there every evening. When the spray rig goes by, they don't worry about those employees right now. They just spray. They grow 1 crop a year there because it's vegetable crops. During that season, I'm pretty sure they're only going to grow 1 crop. That spray rig's going to spray possibly twice. As far as growing for within the 400 feet, next to APS, there's one neighbor, and there's Ron Rice's house. They're growing within 80 feet of those 2 houses that are there, not 400 feet. And for food safety, my company is one of the #1 food safety companies. So I believe with the fence that's there, even with the block fence is even better, but it's not 400 feet as they say, food safety wise. I'm top notch in food safety back home, and they can check. And that was it. I just wanted to say it's not, the pesticide isn't what they're saying, and nor is the food safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you just like,
May I have a chance to respond to that? I think.
Yes, of course, yeah, it's a public hearing.
Well, my only comment to that, and I appreciate everything he's saying because obviously it's his project, he wants to see it through. My comment is then, will he write a guarantee? Because like I said, he doesn't decide the buffer. He doesn't decide. He wishes. So will he write me a guarantee that if a 400-foot buffer or any kind of food safety buffer goes up around there, he will compensate me for complete loss? That's all I ask for.
Any more comments?
I mean, I have a few. Is it our turn?
Go ahead, Commissioner Sendejas.
Okay. I have a few, Carmen and Saul. For public safety, did you speak to the chief of police and the chief of fire regarding this? And if so, where are their letters? The gentleman also stated that there was comments made by the fire marshal. I don't see Louis' comment or documentation, if there was any. It was not in my packet. I have no comments. Did you guys speak to them regarding public safety? I remember seeing a document from the chief of fire in one instance that we had the planning and zoning, and I don't see any here. So I would like to know, Saul or Carmen, did you guys speak to the chief of police or the chief of fire and the fire marshal? Go ahead. I'll go ahead and answer one at a time. Go ahead, Saul.
Commissioner Sendejas, so we have a plan review system, project review system where we route the proposals to the appropriate departments of public safety, fire, engineering, public works, and whether or not they make it to the desk of the chief, I'm not sure. However, we did receive comments, we did receive a response from all these parties that you mentioned, and they were all a no comment or we'll address this at the plan review / installation plan once we get to that stage. That's why you're not seeing any comments in your packet, because I don't typically put comments that are a no comment respond on there.
And Commissioner Sendejas, also, if I may add that the request for comment form is sent not just to the city departments that are involved in the review process, but also it goes beyond the city. And it's also sent to the Yuma County, to all the utility companies, and several other agencies that are in our list of comments requesting. So if we don't receive anything, we don't insert, obviously, anything into the report. We only insert those comments that have a message.
Was there a second part to your question also too? Sorry, go ahead.
No, from public safety, that's all I have. For my other comment or question, there were no signatures obtained, but as we can all see, there's a lot of opposition. Why didn't these gentlemen sign the opposition or you know how normally we get letters from opposition? They decided to represent themselves physically, or they didn't want to sign? You didn't get any signatures.
Commissioner Sendejas, this is the reason of a public hearing tonight for those that are wishing to speak, whether in favor or against. It's not just restricted to letters. They have the opportunity. This is what the hearing is for today, tonight, for you to have the opportunity and for the people here tonight to have the opportunity to speak whether in favor or against.
Also, the 14-month duration for the permit, I know it's for 14 months, but harvest is mainly all year long. So that means that after the 14 month, they're leaving and they're taking their trailers away, and we're going to rezone it back, or, why only 14 months? So,
Commissioner Sendejas, the 14 months was based off of a request that they had for 2 growing seasons, 2 winter growing seasons. And because the permit can't be split into 2 halves, say the 2021 growing season and the 2022 growing season, it has to run continuous. So that's why we wrote it that way, that 14 months would cover them for the 2 seasons.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the way it's worded in the ordinance, it can't be split without, it has to be run continuous without interruption.
I see. And I also,
Just to clarify that we are not changing the zoning, this is not a rezoning
Oh, that's
case. As you just mentioned, this is a temporary use permit that is maintaining the underlying zoning district, is not changing anything other than just allowing 2 seasons. The 14-month period includes the off-season time as well, just for the reasons that Saul just mentioned. But we're not changing anything as far as, zoning district.
okay.
And once the, go ahead, sorry.
No, go ahead, Saul, I'm sorry.
Once the permit expires, the temporary use permit at the end of the 14 months, the zoning remains untouched. It's never gonna stop being C2 commercial. And one of the conditions of approval on there was that they could not reapply to renew this temporary use permit. If this is gonna become a permanent installation after the 14 months, then they would have to go through whatever process is required by the zoning ordinance, whether it be conditional use, or more than likely a full rezoning of the property. But yes, like Carmen said, zoning is untouched. General plan land use untouched. This is just for a temporary use of this property.
All right, I just, I'm just also concerned about that driveway. I'm looking at the drawing right now and, I'm just really concerned that the fire marshal or anybody from the fire department didn't make a comment regarding that, but, and I'm also surprised that APS didn't make a comment either. But that's all I have.
Well, Commissioner, on the map, I'm trying to zoom in. It does look, I know it looks awfully narrow, but the fire department reviewed that, and it's my assumption that they upon seeing that, they figured that was enough to get their apparatus to the back, and they were okay with that, and that's why perhaps we received no comment.
Right.
And again, too, perhaps the comments that we received back were based on the fact that this is a temporary use, not the establishment of a permanent complex here. This isn't going to last forever, so perhaps they were able to allow this on a temporary basis with partial improvements or conditions to the site that aren't fully, that aren't what they would be if it was a permanent installation. That could have some effect on their
So
comments and decisions.
that brings up another question that I have then. If this is temporary, are we setting a precedence? Like, for example, if we approve it today and they come back after the 14-month ends, they come back and they want another 14 months or 12 months, we already set a precedent, so it's been approved once. Do they have to come back to us again, or can it be denied or approved? Since let's say we approve it today, and can they come back and ask for another harvest season?
Commissioner Zendejas, not at this location, because the last condition number 9, clearly says that they shall not be able to renew this permit upon expiration. So this, after the 14 months, that's it. They'll have, if they want to continue this here, there would be a possibility for them to explore rezoning, and that would accommodate it as a permanent use, but temporary, that's all it's going to last, 14 months. And that's written into the conditions of approval.
Okay, because I'm looking at the conditions of approval and I don't have, I'm number 9.
Yeah, I know it was a while back, but yeah, there was, I think Word may have messed that up for me, but it's actually, it says condition 5, but it is the last one on the list.
I'm sorry. And I'll be renewed.
Continuously without interruption or lapses for a duration period of 14 months. After the date of establishment, once expired, the temporary use permit shall not be renewed due to the extended life of the temporary use permit initially granted. That's condition number 8. In your report, Ms. Sendejas, is condition number 5, that is.
Yep, got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any more questions for the commission or anyone else wishing to speak before we close the public hearing portion?
I just have several comments, but I'll wait for the vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing that I see here is, like several people mentioned was public safety, sidewalks. I've seen them in Yuma where they are all walking down all Fourth Avenue, I mean, that's not gonna stop them from doing that over here, so. Avenue G, Highway 95, it is a real, used road, so there's a lot of traffic. I mean, we're gonna set a precedent there for accidents and things like that, so that's my comment. Commissioner?
Yeah, I just want to add to that, I work for the housing authority, I drive around Yuma on most of the streets. And when the harvest season is here, on a daily basis, I can see them. They always go out in groups. And, nothing's gonna stop these guys from doing it here, even at night. That'll be a very task, you know.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Due to the severity, can we do a roll call vote? So is there a motion?
I'd like to motion not to permit the temporary use permit.
I second
Okay,
that.
it's been moved to the. Second by Commissioner Sendejas. Roll call vote, please.
Daniel Flores,
Nay.
Juan
So that would be,
Yeah, that would be.
yay,
Yay.
yay.
Yay to the motion.
Correct.
Lorena Sendejas,
Aye. To deny.
Candelario Rangel, Arturo Magaña,
Question, so the motion was to not approve, correct?
correct.
Sorry, it's because I couldn't hear very well, but the motion originally was to not approve. Am I hearing that right?
Right.
Okay. Nay, so I vote to approve.
So at this point, Mr. Chairman, we have 3 votes to not to approve and 1 vote to approve.
Motion fails, or
Motion carries not to be approved.
not to be approved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman.
Everybody?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Take 2 minutes, I need to go to.
Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, have steps reading. Yeah. Okay, so, thank you.
Send you the letter. Good evening, thank you for coming.
Okay. Okay.
Ready to resume?
Okay.
That brings us to item number 2, minor general plan amendment. Case number PLN 20-0017. A minor amendment request by Yuma Union High School District number 70 to change the general plan land use designation. A 76.11 acre parcel from low density residential to public facilities. The purpose of the minor general plan amendment is to allow the approval of rezoning case PLN 20-00012.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, this is a request for a rezoning and a concurrent general plan amendment. So I am going to deliver the reports together, and then you may act on each item separately with separate motions. But my staff report, though, that I put together is the
If I may, is this
high school, yes.
that's the one that needs to be tabled, so we don't need to, at this point, we don't need to,
Right.
just need to,
Motion to table it?
we just need a motion to table. We received a request from the high school, yes,
Two and three.
those are for items 2 and 3. If you want to clarify that.
Yes. So items 2 and 3 are for a general plan amendment needed to approve a rezoning to change the high school parcel from residential to government. However, we did receive a request from the applicant, in this case, the engineer, Evan Dahl of Dahl Robbins, that they wanted to table this to a future date. I guess they're still sorting some things out, and they wish to, for the commission to table this. So staff recommendation is to table both the general plan amendment request and the rezoning request. And those are recommended motions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I make a motion that we table, the minor general plan, 0017 and the, rezoning case 0012.
Okay, move there. Second? Second move. It's been moved by Mr. Rice, second by Commissioner Van Carol. All those in favor? Aye. Abstain.
Both or just one?
Both.
Thank you very much. Simple as that.
For the next item, I need to recuse myself because I am a school board member.
Commissioner Sandesas, we don't have a date yet, and as soon as we hear from the high school, we are going to,
No, she's talking about number four.
okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yes, that's the next item.
Okay, that brings us to number four, minor general plan amendment case PLN 20-0016. A minor amendment requested by Somerton School District number 11 to change the general plan use designation of a 26.17 acre parcel from employment, commercial, and low density residential to public facilities. The purpose of this minor general plan amendment is to allow the approval of zoning case PLN 20-0010. And Commissioner Sandra is using herself on this item.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we would like to present item number 4 and number 5 concurrently, because it pertains to the same area. However, we are going to be asking for separate motions, one for the general plan amendment and one for the rezoning. But in order to expedite the process, since we are talking about the exact same area, we just want to present the two items together. It's okay with you.
Thank you, Commissioners and Mr. Chairman.
So can you put on the record if someone's on the phone, for this particular item?
Yes, so we are currently doing the rezoning case and the minor general plan amendment presentation for the proposed Somerton Elementary School located at the southeast corner of Main Street and Pumbaga Loop. If there is anyone listening on via our telephone channel, could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Dr. Laura Noel. I'm the superintendent at Somerton School District. I live in 30201 Quail Trail, Welton, Arizona.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, so this is a concurrent presentation of the proposed general plan amendment and rezoning of the Somerton School District parcel, APN 211-04017. From the land use will change from, is proposed to change from residential, commercial, from employment and low density residential to, what is that? To public facilities. And this would be to allow the potential rezoning from C2 general commercial and light industrial to government district. The purpose of this rezoning is to allow the construction of a proposed new elementary school and perhaps a future middle school on the parcel. But for right now, the only thing that is proposed is the elementary school. This is the location here, generally located on Main Street and Pumbaga Loop. It's a little dated, yes. So going through the requirements that the general plan has and the zoning ordinance, staff comments, we really found no objections, no problems with this proposal until very recent. We had two comments outside of the comments shown on the staff report here.
Chairman, if it's okay, we can proceed to read the report, the actual staff analysis and everything, and then at the end, we are going to present the letter that we have received.
Share the screen so public can see it.
Oh, it's not being shared?
No, share it.
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you. I apologize to those other commissioners who weren't seeing anything. So yeah, let's go through the, just the staff analysis, I think. Currently, the school could be developed on the parcel without a rezoning, actually, because it is a conditional use. So right now, in order for the school to actually develop, wouldn't even need this rezoning. They could develop with a conditional use permit. However, though, the government district is more flexible, and staff does, every other school in Somerton is zoned government. So this pattern should continue. Schools should be zoned government. The development standards are more flexible. The architect can have more freedom when designing the school, not just the building, but also everything, the whole campus. It's easier to do it in a government district, which is a plus if they have the zoning. And like I said, it's consistent with all other schools. It would be zoned government. The size of the proposed rezoning also requires that the underlying general plan land use, again, this is why we're doing the general plan land use change as well, from employment to public facilities. Is that clear with the commission? To do the rezoning, we have to change, the applicant has to change the land use as well, because it's a big enough parcel that the underlying land use must be changed to proceed with the rezoning. So staff does believe that it's a compatible proposal with the surrounding environment. You know, that part of Somerton's filling up with houses to the east. You know, growth is going that way, and school is a necessary thing here in Somerton. It's beneficial to the community, providing a service to the school age population, and also to the district to have another school. However, staff does believe that because, you know, Main Street it's valuable to have land on Main Street, and commercial land is very valuable. So we think in order to ensure that this proposal does go through as smoothly and as expeditiously as possible, we inserted a condition. You'll see it later in the conditions of approval. It's one of those standard conditions that if the proposal doesn't proceed, it'll go back to the original zoning. It's been a condition included in the past couple of zoning cases that we've had. That's the staff analysis. It's a compatible use. It's currently permitted conditionally, but we want to, the applicant wishes to have it be zoned commercial so that, government, so that they can have the more flexible development standards. All the general plan elements, growth area, it's inside the growth area of Somerton. Not going to change that, so that checks out. Transportation, this was kind of a big one here. The project is on Main Street, and there's a lot of growth that's going towards the west side of Somerton on Main Street, the commercial center, the future high school, the regional park, any other potential development that comes here is going to, including the school, is going to impact traffic, which is why a traffic study was conducted earlier this year. And the traffic study concluded that a new traffic signal would be required to accommodate all the traffic, not just for this school, but for all the development. And we addressed that in the conditions of approval. Mr. Chairman, question.
I just mentioned the traffic light. Where's that? Let me look at it.
No, Mr. Chairman, the traffic light or traffic signal that we are referencing in this staff report is to be located at the future entrance of the commercial center along Main Street. It's not, there's no road there yet, and that'll line up with the school too. It's not on Tumbaga Loop. It's on a future road that does not yet exist that will enter to the commercial center to the north and to the school to the south on Main Street. So yes, that's going to be one of the considerations that we analyzed, and we addressed the need for this in the conditions of approval. I'll cover that a little bit later. This was just traffic and circulation.
It's not Kumana Loop, it's on future road that does not yet exist, that will enter to the commercial center to the north and to the school to the south. On Main.
Sorry, we're having some technical difficulties. If we can just.
So yes, that's maybe one of the considerations that we analyzed, and we addressed the need for this in the conditions of approval. Or that a little bit later. This is just traffic and restricted.
Parks and open space element, it's not really impacting those because it's not a residential developments, but I did mention in there that the nearest parks are Perry Park, right across the street. Also the future regional park, that'll be there. And the pathways along Main Street and Somerton Avenue, so the kids can walk on the pathway to school. I'm sorry, yes, Cesar Chavez, not Somerton Avenue. Public facilities element, there's utilities. There's water on Main Street and sewer on Tumbaga Loop. It's right there, basically at the property line. And I want to touch a little bit on the citizen review process. We had a neighborhood meeting, virtual neighborhood meeting, because we can't really have regular neighborhood meetings in COVID land, but we had 3 people show up. Everyone just wanted information, and everyone was happy after I gave them the information that they requested. Everyone was most concerned that the school was going to take their house, but once we clarified that that's not the case, everyone was in favor. Everyone that I spoke to at that neighborhood meeting. Let's see. So we did have some comments come back. I'd like to share those comments. These were after the staff report was written, after we had done all the research and put together the case report. We had some very last minute comments come through, and I did promise the party who wrote these that we would read these into the record. I'm going to share a copy of these with you, and then I can proceed to staff recommendation afterwards. Okay, so the first comment that we received both of these today, the formal comments, but we've been having communication with these with the parties since last week. I'm going to read you one that came in from Griffin Family Farms, and they're outside of the 300. Both these comments, the people who wrote these are outside of the 300-foot notification radius, which is, they might mention this, that we never alerted them, but we never sent them a notification because they're outside of the 300-foot radius. But they are interested in the project. So the first comment comes from Griffin Family Farms. Would you like me to read it to you, or are you okay just reading it on your own there?
If you could read it, because we have a couple.
Oh, that's right. We have people joining us on. Right. Okay, so the first one, Griffin Family Farms LLC. Regarding future Somerton School District Elementary site, we have a concern about the future site of the Somerton School District Elementary School. As farmers of farmland 1/8 of a mile from the proposed new school site, we are concerned about the buffer zones between the schools and farmland These buffer zones are addressed in ARS 3.365. This statute requires pesticides not to be applied within a quarter of a mile of a school. Our understanding is the only exception to this requirement is if the owner of the agricultural land agrees to comply with the buffer zone requirements and records the agreement in the office of the county recorder as a restrictive covenant running with the title to the land. Attached is a flyer from the Arizona Department of Environmental Services Division. We bring this information to your attention because we are concerned about the health of the students and faculty of the new school. Should you proceed with a new school within the quarter-mile of farmland? The alternative is that farmland that is important to the local economy will have to be severely restricted or taken out of production. In addition to the pesticide concern, it is also important to realize the heavy machinery required to properly farm the ground and harvest crops. It is important to consider both the safety of the residents of Somerton as well as the food safety of our crops. We have farmed Somerton for over 4 generations. Agriculture is what helped build the town of Somerton. It continues to support a great deal of population with the jobs. It is vital that Somerton leaders balance the growth of the community with the farmland that provides its residents with food and jobs to maintain its economic success. Sincerely, Griffin Family Farms, LLC. Griffin Family Farms is outside of the of city limits and also outside of the 300-foot notification radius for the school, which is yes, so this is the first comment we have from them. And then we have a second comment letter from Thomas Seifried, LLC. Comments regarding PLN 20-0010. I have made several concerns about the application for the rezoning PLN 20-00010. This is the elementary school. On the agenda for September 21st, 2020 meeting of the Somerton Planning and Zoning Commission. I am the managing member for the Thomas Seifried LLC that owns the farm to the west, parcel number 211-04020. Our uncle, Merle Thomas, owned that farm for decades until his death at 101 in 2016. I am the 4th generation of my family involved with agriculture in the Yuma area. Our family has a history of involvement and service to the community. I remember visiting Maine and Gail Gallagher in the 1950s at their home in what was a very small Somerton, and when Maine was mayor. The Griffin family has leased that ground for decades. I am very aware of the growth of the communities impacting existing uses, especially on agriculture. I grew up in a Yuma neighborhood that was created in 1948 from a commercial growth. My great-grandparents' last home on County 10th Street in Avenue C, now replaced by a gated community. I also know the value of agriculture to the Somerton economy. But there are other choices available. Agricultural land should not be negatively impacted by agricultural uses. When there is a likelihood of controversy and negative impacts for neighboring uses, it is better for the agency to be proactive in consultations with potentially impacted entities. This is especially important in Meredith, when there is recent history of conflict related to a similar proposal nearby, it is not forbidden by statute to do a greater outreach. Making it difficult to get information doesn't help. I'm speaking from experience as a community person, as well as a professional who has worked in public involvement on projects that have controversial aspects. Information should be publicly and easily accessed and be current. It took me a great effort to find information about this proposed change. I had to really persist in looking online. I never found the flyer that matched the photo that alerted me. I never found online the public hearing notice that Mr. Albor sent by email this morning. The county assessor's property search is not working properly. I cannot access a map of the area through the assessor's office to see relationship between the proposed site and the Thomas Seifried farm. I did finally look at the agenda item review for this proposal online, but only by persisting. Then I couldn't find it again. The entire packet for the commission should be easily found by a citizen. The online list of members of the commission is not current. It shows terms ending August 20, and it appears there are still 2 vacancies on the commission. Information should be publicly and easily accessed and be current in Spanish as well as in English. The description of the parcel is not accurate in the flyer. It is not generally on the southwest corner of Kumbaga Loop and Main Street. I had to persist to find Kumbaga Loop on maps and got varying results. One shows Kumbaga Loop as immediately east of the Thomas Seifried Farm. Without access to the assessor's map, I was handicapped in obtaining accurate information. It should be not dismissed as a factor in lack of response. How does this proposed revision fit with the proposed update of the general plan? What does the present general plan say about citing schools? What sites are identified as potential schools? Why is this revision being pursued given the request for approval of the updated general plan on the November 2020 ballot? Why is this considered a minor change when it negatively impacts farmland to the west that is within city boundaries? The June 2020 proposed revision to the general plan includes the value of preserving agriculture areas by concentrating development patterns. Why is it a minor change when it violates one of the values? The citing of a high school, this is referencing the high school, but this whole letter was mostly to the elementary school. The citing of a high school was not done in a way to honor the honor that value, nor of the working with the neighbors who will be negatively impacted. Now that the high school site has been decided, it's piling on more negative impacts to farmland along Main Street. The Thomas Seifried parcel and parcel to the west that was recently sold by Thomas Seifried to the Griffins are about the last agricultural parcel south of Main Street and to the east of the main drain within city limits. The pressure on the ability to farm those lands is increased with this proposal. This siting of another school so close to these farms is another domino falling for agriculture in Somerton areas. I know the city would not look favorably on negative impacts on city land and facilities from another entity. Information about traffic impacts merits examination. Citing the school with access and egress to a busy and increasingly more busy highway isn't good. Buses, private vehicles, and children and farm vehicles are not the same as type of traffic as commercial businesses and office buildings. This is setting up significant conflict. What are the long-term plans on Main Street? What are the traffic counts now, winter and summer? What are the anticipated traffic counts for the next 5 years? Where would the contemplated signal be located? When would it be installed? Where will the marked and protected crosswalks across Main Street? Where they'll be marked and she's asking if there will be crosswalks protected on across Main Street. Will there be sidewalks for pedestrians from the western side of the school property? Sidewalks are not compatible with farm vehicles and practices, so there shouldn't be sidewalks to the west, especially not paid for by the owners of the property who would derive no benefit and would have negative impacts. Staff and members of the commission should know that this is a controversial issue. There is an obligation by the city to make sure the impacted parties, even if not within the official notification area, should be consulted. Only 3 people attended the virtual neighborhood meetings. That should have been an alert that not enough people realize the impact. Keeping quiet and making information difficult to access, hoping no one notices aren't good practices for a government with responsibility to the entire community. Time is not of the essence. This request should not be approved until the ramifications are addressed. Charlotte Thomas, managing member of Thomas and Seifried. So the members of the commission, these 2 comment letters came in very late today. There are some issues about how they had no time to review this, how they obviously have multiple concerns. But again, the reason that they weren't notified on a timely, earlier is because they're not within the notification area. But we did follow all the required notification of the 300-foot boundary, the publishing in the newspaper, the neighborhood meeting. We did everything that was required. And I know there's a lot of talking points in here, but we will address these at the next staff report. And we are going to have a good relationship. We're going to try our best to have a good relationship with both these parties and address all their concerns, answer all their questions. And I have informed them that even though they are not in the notification area, because they have shown genuine, deep interest in this project, that they will be alerted. I will send them an invitation to the next public hearing. So those were the 2 major future comments. The other comments that we received for this project were from the Water Users Association. they said that we can, that the school district has the option to convert the water rights from irrigation to municipal. It's an option, it's not a requirement. And if I can inform them if they will be doing so, water users. Other comment was from Charter Communications, just pointing out that they have cable at the subject property. Any questions so far from the commission on everything presented so far? If not, I will proceed to the recommendation and conditions of approval. I'm sorry, did someone have a question? Oh, anyone joining us by telephone, any questions of what, the members of the commission? Any questions?
I do have a comment. This is Dr. Knoll. May I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Knoll.
I would like to let the commission know that we are considering the issues of pesticide covenants and the different issues that were mentioned by the people in their written correspondence. Those are things that we are working to resolve and to come to a good resolution for. In fact, part of the reason we did the land swap that we did was to protect the farmland, so that we're taking the land that's up by the housing in that little corner where the housing is at and along the main road, and allowing the farming to continue down back on the south end of where we originally had donated land. The land was donated to us. And in terms of pesticide covenants, the person who presented out from Griffin Farms is very correct, and we are working on that. But we believe that the area that we're planning the school on is well within the boundary of the quarter-mile from their farmland. So our construction of the elementary school should not interfere at all with their farming. And then the farmer that we swapped land with has, we already have a pesticide covenant in effect for all of that land. So I just wanted to make you aware that their considerations are true and what we are working on to make good resolutions for.
Mr. Chairman, if I may also add that we are working, the rezoning process and the general plan amendment is the first step in the process. Along those processes, we're still working with engineering on the traffic study and all of the points that were pointed out in the letter. So all that information is going to be available to the public, and this is the first step in the process for the construction. As I mentioned, the letter was received within an hour from the meeting, so we did not have the opportunity to address each point that is in the letter, but we will at the council level.
Well, staff recommendation is approval for both general plan amendment and the rezoning. The conditions of approval are same for both cases. I'd like to go over the conditions of approval. If there are no further questions.
I'd like to move to recommend the approval of the minor contingent of plan amendment case 18, subject to the conditions that been exhibit A.
I second the approval. A motion.
Were you gonna go to the conditions first, or?
Would you like me to?
We can go over the conditions, Chairman, and if you have any questions after that, if not, we can still have that motion that is already made.
Okay, there's a motion to approve by Commissioner Rangel and second by Commissioner Magana. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to clarify, was that motion to approve both
No.
No, it has to be.
general plan amendment?
General plan amendment first, and then the rezoning.
Just clarifying.
We need two separate motions.
So, would you like me to read the conditions of approval before you make the next motion?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the conditions of approval are the same as for the rezoning as well as the general plan amendment that you just recommended to approve. Number one, the project shall abide by all established municipal, county, and state federal regulations for the establishment and operation of the proposed uses, school K-8 and school K-12. That's the official use classification, so they have to abide by all the requirements, including the, pesticide restrictions and everything else established at the county and state levels and federal. Number two, applicant shall comply with all adopted zoning, building, fire, safety, and development ordinances when the project advances to the development stage. Number three, the applicant shall obtain a conditional use permit required per section 2 of the Somerton zoning ordinance for the establishment and operation of the proposed schools, proposed uses, school K-8 and school K-12, prior to commencing operation. May I mention that it was a conditional use currently? Schools are actually a conditional use in every single zoning district, including government district, because you have to ensure that it goes through a conditional use process to review everything, the surrounding uses, any underlying conditions that, even though your zoning is correct, it still has to be reviewed a step deeper. However, though, as mentioned, government zoning does give them a little bit more flexibility when designing the school. That's why they're pursuing this. For that condition, number three, they shall obtain a conditional use permit prior to commencing operation. Number four, the applicant shall obtain a building permit for the proposed elementary school within 2 calendar years after the final approval of this rezoning and minor general plan amendment, or submit an extension request to the Department of Community Development, which shall be subject to the approval of the Somerton City Council. So, if approved, if the whole thing gets approved, it will have 2 years to pull a building permit or request an extension, which shall be approved by the City Council. Number five, failure to comply with condition number 4 shall result in the automatic reversal of the parcel to the previous zoning district and the general plan land use classification. This condition shall also apply to any new parcels resulting from any lot tie or split recorded during or after the final approval of this rezoning and minor general plan amendment. So, if they don't get the building permit within 2 years of requesting extension, this will go back to being zoned commercial, light industrial. This also applies if they were to split the parcel, which they are actually in the process of doing a lot split right now. But it's still, this will be reflected in the next staff report for the City Council. Only time will tell if the lot split will be done by the time this gets to council. That's why I didn't mention it here. But it will apply, this condition will apply to any new parcel resulting from that split. Number 6, applicants shall comply with the recommendations and requirements of the Cesar Chavez Main Street Development Traffic Impact Study prepared for the City of Somerton dated August 13th, 2020. This relates to the traffic signal. The city's still reviewing how this is going to be structured as to when it's going to go in and how it's going to be, who's going to pay for what share. These are all finer details that'll be reviewed later. But that condition just says that they shall comply with the recommendations of the report. And in the city of Somerton and all the involved parties will come to an agreement at a future date. But we just wanted to have this in the conditions of approval. Any questions on the conditions of approval? Okay, that concludes my presentation, and there is another recommended motion.
We need, Chairman, we need a motion for the rezoning case. We already did the motion for the general plan amendment. Now we need a second motion to approve the change of zoning.
So is there a motion?
I'd like to move to recommend the approval of rezoning, case number 10, subject to the conditions listed in the student.
It's been moved by Commissioner Rangel and second by Commissioner Rice to approve rezoning case PLN 20-0010, subject to the conditions listed in Exhibit A. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Commissioner Magana, was that an aye
Yes,
on
correct.
your end? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commission, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Brings us to summary of it.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, our next regular meeting is scheduled for October 19th, and we do have one item already for the agenda, so most likely we're gonna be here, on October 19th. Also, some of the current projects that we are working on is the 2020 general plan. We have the draft that has been approved by council, and we are going to have that item on the ballot on November 3rd for voter stratification. It is going to be there. Hopefully it's gonna get approved. Also, staff is working to initiate a public meeting for the infill incentive overlay plan. We are working on putting the schedule together now that hopefully the restrictions are not as restricted, and we are going to be able to present it to the community before we come back to you and to city council for final approval. And last but not least, we have the 2020 census ongoing. We're still working to count every resident in Somerton, and the last day to submit the questionnaires is September 30th. Hopefully everyone here has submitted their census questionnaire. Great. That's all I have.
Very well. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded.
Laura Noel has left.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned at 7:48 PM. Thank you, everybody.